Hey everybody, it's Tom Cherryhams with the FujiNet project, and I wanted to make a video here highlighting the wonderful work that Michael Sternberg has been doing to take the proof of concept network operating system code that I started roughly a year and a half ago and turning it into something that can be used on a day-to-day basis. Even though this version doesn't have a copy command yet, there are a lot of promising features that are coming into play here to show what is possible when you take and offload the majority of the file system work that used to be done on the Atari onto the FujiNet's processor. But in order to do that, I have to make a comparison against existing Atari disk operating systems. Since basically the Atari operating system mostly exists in ROM, and that includes a whole host of different subsystems, such as the SIO for talking to the serial device, and the CIO, the central input and output system, serving as a hardware abstraction layer. All a disk operating system honestly provides is a file system. It provides the routines for talking to the disk drives are already taken care of by the SIO, and thus most Atari disk operating systems just need to take the sector information that is encoded into SIO and build a data structure around it to provide a filing system. Sparta-DOS X notwithstanding, because it does its own thing from top to bottom, understandably so. And to really demonstrate the difference here, I'm going to boot up Sparta-DOS version 3.2. And all of the versions of all of the different disk operating systems that are on Atari apps in the DOS folder, all have the Sparta-DOS, all have the utilities for FujiNet put on them. They're all there, they're all ready to go. So you can use your favorite DOS to take and utilize these utilities to begin with. Sparta-DOS 3.2 is also rather lenient about device names. So if you load a device driver for the end device, you suddenly have access to the end device within your operating system, no matter what it happens to be. And this was part of the whole thinking of integration from FujiNet's standpoint back to the user. So with that, we can, of course, use the NCD tool. Go and talk to my TNFS server that's over here. Got 2 files in it right now. We go, we change the directory to it, and we can see that the current path is what's currently being set because we see it right here. Okay. And now if we go to N and do a directory on it, we'll see those 2 files sitting there ready to go, and so on. And we can, of course, take and we can do file operations on it. And so on. All of that gets translated over. And this is part of the N device driver. This is important because the NOS essentially loads the N device driver in and uses it as the primary file system device. But all these utilities you have to carry around with you, and depending on the operating system that you choose to use, the integration may work very well, or it may not work so well. So we thought, okay, what if we could instead take and just load the N device and not bother about the D device at all, not worry about loading support for disk drives? How much if we offloaded all of the logic that would normally be running on the host computer to implement a file system, what if all of that were moved over to the FujiNet? How much RAM would that free up? How much simpler would that make the operating system on the Atari side? And the answer is, it makes it very simple. So now that we've shown a bit of this, I'm going to take and reboot. And we're going to go back in and load the FujiNet NOS. We'll go ahead and go to Atari Apps. We go to the DOS folder. This is live, so if you want to try this out yourself, you can. There's the copy of FujiNet NOS nestled in with all the other operating systems. We mount it read-only because there's no reason to do read-write for this. The only function that this disk image does is to load the N handler into memory. That's it. The only other thing that NOS provides is a command processor so that we can take and send commands to the FujiNet to do file management functions, as well as a binary loader so that you can load software. And we'll boot. And we'll see almost immediately that NOS comes up very quickly. There we are. That's really it. I can't remember how to calculate memlo off the top of my head. So I think I might. Let's go back. You can see there's a command processor there. So I was able to take and go back to car. Let's see if I can do this right. 744. Is that right? Okay. So there's our memlo right there, just under 5.8K. We can probably do better, but there we go. All right. So there we go. So what do we have here? Well, we can type help, and help will provide us a top level explanation of the different commands and topics that we can pull into, and there are lots of them. For example, we can go into help NOS. And get all of the commands that are supported. And if you go a bit further, you can drill down into each one. There isn't one for that yet, but let's see. Anything? So, okay, he hasn't pulled those just yet. The thing about the interesting thing is that the help content is actually being pulled from GitHub dynamically. So as we add stuff to the help system, it will just show up. We have also handy dandy little implementation of mapping the Atari here. So we have a middle memory map. So, and so on. We have various bits of reference material which will show up, which for now is the ATASCII table. And so on. So we have kind of this online help system which is being pulled from GitHub via the web and being displayed here on the Atari dynamically. It doesn't take up any space in memory. It doesn't take up any space on the boot disk that this thing comes on. It's all being loaded directly from the web. With that, now we can start moving on to do something interesting. Because right now, if we were to do something like a directory, we wouldn't get anything useful. We would get a 165, which is an invalid file name, which means in this case, if we do a print working directory, there's nowhere for this to go. So the NOS doesn't know what to talk to. We have to give it somewhere to talk to. And the way we do that is with the cd command. We can say cd, and give it a prefix here. And I want to talk to my local TNFS server. At that point, if I do pwd here, we'll see that N1 is now mapped to my TNFS server. And if I do a directory, we'll actually see the results of that here. And of course, we can take and do all of our file management tools and utilities here. So say, for example, we can take and go into the foo directory. We do pwd, we'll see foo is now tacked on the end here. We can see that there's nothing in foo. We'll take a look here and see, bam, there isn't. But we could just as easily take and make something. Sure, why not? Let's go back. Now let's go and pull in the car command. We can go to our cartridge here, and I'll just and we can save using either N or D. They're both mapped to the same place in the device table. And we can say save hello basic. Hello basic now shows up on the file server. And of course, I can then, with an extra little trick here, I will take and provide. I'm actually going to make a little note here so that I can timestamp this appropriately. The NTRANS command is what I'm going to do here. If I were to take and do a list on this file right here, it would save it in a TASCII format. I can use the NTRANS command to specify how text files will get saved out. I want to take and do it in Unix form with LF, so I set that. And if I go back to the cartridge and list the result, then we can come over here, view the results. Well, looks like a slight bug here, but no big deal. It did save it, but it saved it with the TASCII line endings. Oops. But yeah, I think that's something I was supposed to take. My bad. So that's that I can fix. Still more to fix. We can, of course, go ahead and delete that file and say that's the end of it. Bring back my notes. NTRANS load. I'll go ahead and just delete the file and call it done. There we go. But see, we have direct access to the file system here. Let's go somewhere else. I'll keep N1 here on my local file server, and we'll go to, let's say I'll go over to an FTP server over here. FTP URL is very similar: protocol, host name, path. So I'm gonna just take some moment here because debounce in Altera on Linux is a little weird when it comes to the caps lock key. There we go. We'll go here and we'll do a directory. It's logging into the FTP, providing the output here. No problem. Let's go into collections. All right, no problem. Let's go into, now since this file name Holmes CD has a space in it, I will have to take it and close it in quotes. Remember to do that or it will not, it'll only get the first bit of it. You can put the slash on the front or the back, it doesn't matter. And I'm going to go ahead and skip forward a little bit. And we're going to go here. And we have a rather large directory full of basic files, M65 files, you name it. Wait for it to come down to the bottom here. And I could just as easily now that I've got the prefix for this particular thing set, I can go back and load Sunset Basic. Oops. Or not. There we go. That was weird. So window, wonder what that was about. Slight little glitch there. It may have been that the FTP server said, no, I couldn't service that request at that moment. And you can see we were able to take and bring that over, no problem. I will take and just hit the warm start here. Okay. So got that. Go. Great. Now we can just go ahead, and if we wanted to save it to here, we could. So now it's sitting here on my file server here. So even though we didn't have a copy command implemented, we were still able to take and read and write and bring this over here just fine. This works for, because we're actually implementing both the N and the D device. And in fact, if we use the D device, we'll see it works that way too. So programs that need the D device and only consider that the D device actually exists, those will work too. Of course, now in addition to that, we can also load binary files. Let's look and see what's in this. Let's have a look and see what we actually got in here. Don't think it's XEX, but it's EXE. Yep, there we go. We got some EXEs in here. Sure, fantastic. So we'll go ahead and we'll load Frog. We haven't implemented command processing yet. If anybody wants to jump in and actually implement loading of files with command processes, that would be great. So we can load our good friend Frog here, and it will come up. Here we are. Come back here. And we're still sitting at that FTP. So we can load, you can load games, you can take and load application software, no problem. It'll take and load it in just fine. And because the memlow is very low, pretty much anything will run. So in addition to that, you saw earlier here the ability to take and make folders. So we can. And we can delete them. And you use the cd command to go into them. And pwd, of course, to see where you are. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to take and reset this. Go back. And there's our file. Bam. Now, of course, I'll end this by basically taking and doing a little bit of a run through here, using action to take and deal with some code and to edit it, compile it, save it back out again. So we'll go ahead and I will insert my action cartridge. Of course, this is all completely rebooted, no problem. Okay, FujiNet NOS ready to boot. We'll go ahead and just boot in. And we'll see that the FujiNet NOS header comes up, and we're followed by the action editor. Now at this point, we can go into the monitor. We can go out to DOS real quick. And we can immediately set the network prefix for where we want to go. And I'll go ahead and set N2. Oh, I think I just messed up there. My bad. We'll take and change that again because I explicitly set the device number. And we'll do stuff, collections. Do that. Atari archives. Antic files 88. And with luck, I actually typed all that right. Let's see. No, I didn't. We'll do that again. We'll go here. We'll go I see what I did wrong. Go here. We'll go to Atari archives. And we'll go here. Hopefully this puts us right back where we need to be. Of course it is. Okay. Now in here we have a number of files as we saw before. Lots of basic files, lots of Mac65 files that we could mess with. Lots of character sets, it looks like. And once we get down, I'll take and just filter out for action source files that we're going to use here. And now we have, let's see, we'll just do frog here. Why not? So now this is set up. I can immediately go back into the editor, retrieve frog act from here. And if I wanted to, I could go ahead and just save it over to my local system. Sure, why not? Maybe I want to put it in foo. Ah, yeah. I made a directory inside. Ah, that's what happened. So yeah, there we go. So now it's sitting right there. Ready to go. And maybe I want to take and compile it. Sure, no problem. I'll take and compile it. Go back into the monitor. We'll take and compile it. Bam, okay, it's compiled. And of course I can run it. We know it, we've already seen it. But I'll take and write it out. How, something like that. Since I didn't put foo in here, it will put it out here. But there we are. The executable is right there. And of course I can go out to DOS and we can go to N1. See our frog executable here. And load it. Ah, okay. No runtime here. But yeah, see, there you go. So I think that pretty much ends it right here. I think this is a good little indicator to show where things stand right now. So where to take it from here? Well, there are lots of places we can go. Of course, we need help to finish the remaining features, but there are also other places that there are also other things we could do. For example, making adapters for different disk formats. And because the disk formats, for different disk image formats and whatnot, being able to go inside of them, to manipulate files inside of them, because all of that is completely divorced from running on the Atari is not having to do processing to deal with those things. They can be done on the FujiNet has a lot more memory and a lot more power, and just deliver the goods over the wire to the Atari as a standard I/O channel. And it will pretty much work everywhere. So you can transcend file systems, different versions of Atari DOS, FAT format images, FAT32 format images, CPM format images, Macintosh disk format images. Doesn't matter. We could take and make different adapters, take and go into them, and present all of these to the NOS in a very consistent manner. And all of this without adjusting or affecting the memlo of the software. So where does that leave us? Well, if you want to help, it's a wonderful thing. You can go ahead, and the source code is available. It's right here, FujiNet NHandler, in the NOS folder. It's written in MADS assembler. So if you want to take and help to make this better, great. We could use all the help we can get to make this smaller, to make it faster, to add the missing features, and to make this what I would consider to be one of the preferred ways of using your Atari computer. So with that, I'll go ahead and leave us here and call it done. And so until next time, guys, have fun.